Rich woman mocks driver, then discovers he's the owner of the car company. What happens when arrogance meets a shocking revelation? In this gripping story, a wealthy woman thinks she's superior to everyone, including her chauffeur. But in a twist of fate, she soon finds out that the man she just insulted holds the keys to an empire she could never have imagined. Prepare for a surprising turn that will leave you questioning first impressions. The bustling streets of Manhattan were alive with the spirit of Christmas Eve. Dazzling lights twinkled from every corner, illuminating the faces of hurried shoppers who dashed from one store to another, their arms laden with brightly wrapped gifts. The aroma of roasted chestnuts wafted through the air, mingling with the crisp winter chill. Amidst the festive chaos, Claire Whitmore emerged from her chauffeured car, her presence commanding attention. Clad in a luxurious red coat that flared at the waist and adorned with a shimmering fur collar, she was the epitome of privilege and sophistication. As she stepped into her penthouse building, the opulence of her surroundings was palpable. The marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of ornate chandeliers, and the scent of pine and cinnamon wafted from the meticulously decorated lobby. Claire's heart raced, not from excitement but from the weight of expectation as she ascended the elevator to her lavish apartment. Tonight was the night of her grand Christmas soiree, a gathering of Manhattan's elite, and every detail had to be flawless. Inside her penthouse, Claire was surrounded by decadence. The walls were adorned with expensive art pieces, and the glittering tree stood tall in the corner, draped in pearls and gold. Yet, as she surveyed her domain, a shadow of doubt flickered across her face. Despite the glittering facade, Claire felt an ever-present pressure looming over her, none greater than that from her mother, who had always demanded nothing short of perfection. "Claire, darling, have you finalized the guest list?" Her mother's voice rang in her mind, echoing with the weight of authority. "You know how important it is to impress everyone. They'll be watching you." Taking a deep breath, Claire glanced at her reflection in the ornate mirror. The woman staring back at her wore a mask of confidence, yet inside, she felt a tempest of insecurities. She moved to the plush sofa, clutching her notes for the evening's speech. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, trying to quell the rising tide of anxiety. She practiced her words, her voice steadying with each repetition. "Welcome, my dear friends, to a night of celebration and joy." But as she spoke, the sincerity felt hollow. The glittering world she inhabited seemed to blur the lines between genuine connection and superficiality. "What will they think of me?" she thought, biting her lip in frustration. Just then, a glance at the clock jolted her back to reality. Time was slipping away, and she still needed to get to the venue where the event was being held. Claire rushed to the front door, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "Where is that chauffeur?" she muttered, tapping her foot impatiently. The air was thick with tension as she waited, the thought of being late igniting a fire of irritation within her. Minutes later, the door swung open, revealing her chauffeur, visibly distressed and sweating. "I'm so sorry, Miss Whitmore." Traffic was. But before he could finish, he doubled over, clutching his chest and collapsing to the floor. "Ethan!" Claire exclaimed, her heart racing as she rushed to his side. Panic surged through her veins. "What's wrong? Someone call for help." The chaos of the evening suddenly morphed into a different kind of urgency. Frustration boiled within her, as she could feel the minutes ticking away. With a glance at the watch on her wrist, Claire realized that she could no longer rely on her usual transportation. "I can't be late," she hissed under her breath, her mind racing for alternatives. She grabbed her phone, scrolling through her contacts, but her anxiety only deepened. She needed a solution, and she needed it fast. "Claire, I'll be fine," Ethan gasped, trying to reassure her despite his obvious distress. But the weight of her responsibilities was a heavy burden to bear, and she felt the sheer panic of the moment wash over her. In that instant, the festive lights outside seemed to fade, replaced by the stark reality of her predicament. With no time to lose, Claire took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever came next. She stepped outside, the winter air biting at her cheeks, and scanned the street for a taxi or any available car. The night was alive with laughter and cheer, but for her, the world felt heavy, the glimmering lights no longer a source of joy, but a reminder of the expectations that loomed large over her. As Claire fumed in the back seat of the luxurious sedan, she couldn't help but cast glances at the man behind the wheel. He was unassuming, with a rugged demeanor and a calm presence that seemed to contrast sharply with her own frayed nerves. His hands gripped the steering wheel with a quiet confidence, and for a moment, she considered asking him about his life, but the thought quickly evaporated. She had no time for idle chatter. Her world was filled with deadlines and expectations. "Can you drive any faster?" she snapped, her voice laced with impatience. "I can't afford to be late to the event. The whole city is counting on me to show up in style." The man, Sam, merely nodded, his eyes focused on the road ahead. "I understand," he said, his tone steady and calm. "But safety comes first. We'll get there." Claire rolled her eyes, her irritation mounting. "You just don't get it, do you? This isn't just another party. It's a showcase. I need to impress everyone. They expect perfection from me, especially my mother." She leaned back in her seat, arms crossed defiantly. Sam glanced over at her, a flicker of empathy crossing his face. "You know, not everyone is focused on appearances. Sometimes, it's the simple things that matter most." "Simple?" Claire scoffed, incredulous. "This isn't about being simple. I've worked hard to climb the social ladder. I deserve to enjoy the fruits of my labor." "Labor? You call what you do labor?" Sam replied, a hint of challenge in his voice. "What have you really worked for? A life of luxury that isolates you from the world outside." Claire turned to him, the fire of indignation burning in her chest. "You have no idea what it's like to be me. You think you can judge me from behind the wheel? I work day and night to maintain my status. If you only knew the sacrifices." "Sacrifices?" he interrupted, his voice steady. "Or are they merely choices you've made? Choices that have led you to a life filled with pressure and expectations?" She stared at him, momentarily taken aback. "You don't know anything about me," she shot back, but the words felt hollow even as she said them. "I know enough," Sam replied quietly, his gaze returning to the road. "I see someone who's running a race but doesn't even know what the prize is." Claire huffed, glancing out the window at the dazzling lights of Manhattan. She was used to people fawning over her, not challenging her beliefs or her lifestyle. "What would you know about it? You're just a driver." Sam chuckled softly, a sound that irritated Claire even more. "Just a driver, huh? Maybe I'm more than what I seem. Maybe we all are." The silence that followed was thick with tension. Claire fumed internally, struggling to reconcile her anger with the faintest hint of curiosity. Who was this man? Just as she was about to retort, he interrupted her thoughts. "Look," he said, his tone shifting to something softer. "I don't mean to offend you, but I see a lot of people in your position. They forget what truly matters in life. It's easy to lose yourself in the glitz and glamour, but it often leaves you empty in the end." Claire's heart raced, but she refused to show any vulnerability. "You're wrong," she snapped. "I'm not empty. I have everything I need." "Do you really?" Sam's voice was calm yet probing. "What about happiness? Contentment? Do you feel those things?" She turned to him, her mind racing. "Of course I'm happy. I have the best clothes, the finest parties, and the most exclusive friends." "Do you enjoy any of it?" he pressed gently. "Or is it just about keeping up appearances?" The question hung in the air, and Claire felt a pang of something she had long buried. I enjoy it," she stumbled, but even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice. As they approached a lavishly decorated car dealership, Claire's eyes lit up. "Stop here," she commanded, her earlier frustration forgotten. "I need a new car. Something that will turn heads at the event." Sam pulled over, eyeing the glitzy facade of the dealership. "You know, it's not just about the car. It's what it represents." "I don't care what it represents," Claire shot back, her excitement bubbling over. "I need to make a statement." He watched her for a moment, a mixture of resignation and understanding on his face. "All right, but remember, it's not the car that makes you. It's who you are behind the wheel." With that, Claire hopped out of the car, her heels clicking against the pavement as she rushed into the dealership, leaving Sam to ponder the irony of her words as he followed her inside. Inside the dealership, the atmosphere was a mix of polished chrome and the faint scent of leather, interspersed with the hushed conversations of salespeople and the soft hum of luxury cars. Claire Whitmore strode in with an air of entitlement, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "I expect the best service," she declared, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. The employees exchanged glances, accustomed to the demands of privileged clients, but still taken aback by the intensity of her presence. Sam Donovan stood nearby, trying to remain inconspicuous while observing Claire. Her demeanor was that of a queen assessing her court. She had an uncanny ability to belittle those around her with mere words. "Is anyone going to help me, or am I expected to browse like I'm at a flea market?" she snapped, her eyes scanning the showroom with disdain. One of the salesmen approached hesitantly, adjusting his tie. "How can I assist you today, ma'am?" he asked, a nervous smile plastered on his face. Claire didn't even look at him. "I want to see the latest models, something that makes a statement." "And hurry it up," she replied, her impatience palpable. Sam felt a pang of sympathy for the salesman, who was clearly caught in the crossfire of Claire's arrogance. While Claire continued her tirade, Sam couldn't help but reflect on the disparity between their worlds. He noted the way she spoke down to the employees, as if their worth was measured solely by their job titles. It was a stark reminder of how wealth could distort one's sense of self and others. "You know," he murmured softly to himself, "humility is a luxury that often eludes the rich." As Claire moved deeper into the dealership, she stumbled upon an old photograph hanging on the wall. It was a black and white image of a vibrant event, where a young couple stood proudly beside a car adorned with a large bow. Sam's heart sank as he recognized the moment captured in time. It was from the grand opening of his first dealership, and the woman beside him was his late wife, Lily. "Who is that?" Claire asked, her interest piqued despite her usual disinterest in anything that didn't directly benefit her. The nearby employee, sensing an opportunity to share a piece of history, replied, "That's Mr. Donovan and his wife, Lily. She was known for her kindness and generosity, always helping the community. A truly remarkable woman." Claire's expression softened momentarily, a flicker of something deeper crossing her features. Yet before she could process it, she waved her hand dismissively. "That's sweet, but I'm here to find a car, not to hear a sob story." Sam felt a mixture of frustration and pity. He understood her world, but it seemed she was so entrenched in her superficial values that she couldn't see past the glittering facade. Maybe if she knew the real story behind that car, it would mean more to her, he thought, wishing for the chance to reveal the importance of legacy over luxury. As the shopping spree continued, Claire found herself drawn to the most extravagant models, her eyes gleaming with greed. Sam cleared his throat, stepping forward with a suggestion. "You know, Claire, there's a model that has quite a history, one that represents not just status but also resilience and craftsmanship. It's not the flashiest, but it tells a story." Claire turned to him, her brows furrowed. "I don't want a story. I want the best. If I'm going to make an impression tonight, it needs to be something that screams opulence." "Opulence doesn't always scream," Sam replied softly, his tone earnest. "Sometimes it whispers, and that's where the true value lies." A car that embodies quality and history can say more about you than a flashy exterior ever could. Claire scoffed, dismissing his words. You wouldn't understand my world. A car is a statement, a reflection of worth. It's about what people see. As she continued to browse, Sam felt a deepening conflict within himself. He could see the potential for growth in Claire, yet she remained ensnared by her superficial beliefs. The contrast between their lives was stark, and he pondered how one could navigate the complexities of wealth without losing sight of humility and genuine connection. Claire, oblivious to the turmoil she was causing in Sam's heart, continued her search for the perfect vehicle, her priorities firmly set on status rather than substance. Little did she know that each moment spent in this dealership was nudging her toward a revelation that could reshape her understanding of success and self-worth forever. As Claire stepped deeper into the luxurious dealership, her eyes gleamed with determination, fixated on obtaining the most extravagant car on the lot. The glimmer of polished metal and the scent of new leather fueled her desire for a vehicle that would elevate her status among Manhattan's elite. Sam Donovan, however, felt a sense of unease creeping in. He understood the allure of wealth but also recognized the hollowness that often accompanied it. Are you sure this is the one you want? Sam asked gently, his voice measured as he gestured toward a sleek, understated model that exuded elegance without being ostentatious. This car has a story. It represents innovation and craftsmanship. It could be a reflection of who you are beyond just your status. Claire's eyes narrowed, and she crossed her arms defiantly. I want the best, Sam. This isn't just a car. It's a statement. I need something that commands attention. She turned her back to him, her gaze sweeping across the showroom, ignoring the subtle challenge in his tone. But what does that statement say about you? Sam pressed on, undeterred by her dismissal. Is it really about the car? Or is it about what you wish to project to others? There's a difference, you know. Are you questioning my taste? I think I know what I want, she shot back, irritation flashing across her features. The tension in the air thickened as she caught the gaze of a few employees who had begun to recognize Sam. Their demeanor shifted, and Claire felt their eyes on her, a mix of curiosity and respect directed at the man she had so carelessly dismissed. One of the employees, a young woman with bright eyes, whispered to her colleague, "Isn't that Sam Donovan? The founder of this company?" The hushed words barely reached Claire's ears, but they sent a jolt of discomfort through her. Sam noticed her expression falter. "You didn't know, did you?" he asked, his tone softening. "They respect me here for more than just my success. It's about the values we embody, the impact we leave behind. Maybe it's time to consider a different perspective." Claire shifted uneasily, the weight of her earlier arrogance settling heavily in her chest. I just want my mother's approval," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, vulnerability seeping through the cracks of her polished exterior. Sam's expression softened as he leaned slightly closer. "And what does her approval mean to you? Do you think she would be proud of the person you are becoming, or would she prefer you to be someone you're not?" Claire's brow furrowed, and she bit her lip, the questions gnawing at her insides. "I don't know," she finally confessed, her defenses wavering. It feels like I'm constantly trying to meet her expectations." "You're a person, Claire, not a trophy to be displayed," Sam replied, his voice steady and kind. "It's okay to seek approval, but it's also important to discover who you truly are outside of that pressure. What do you want? What makes you happy?" For a moment, Claire stood in silence, the glitzy showroom fading into the background. The reality of her situation began to sink in. She had spent so much time chasing the approval of others that she had lost sight of herself. "I don't know what makes me happy," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've always been told what to do and how to be. It's hard to break free from that." Sam nodded, understanding the struggle. Discovering what truly matters takes time. It's a journey, not a destination. Perhaps you could start by choosing a car that resonates with you, not just with the idea of success. Something meaningful. Claire glanced at the understated model once more, its elegance now speaking to her in a way she hadn't expected. It was a far cry from the ostentatious vehicle she originally sought, yet it felt more like an extension of her newfound introspection. "Maybe I need to think about it," she said slowly, the resolve in her voice wavering. The idea of change was daunting, but for the first time, it felt like a possibility. As she contemplated her choices, the employees continued to watch, their respect for Sam evident in their hushed conversations. Claire could sense the shift in the atmosphere, and it made her acutely aware of how her behavior was being scrutinized. "Perhaps we should take a moment," Sam suggested, sensing her turmoil. "Let's step outside, get some fresh air. It might help clear your mind." Claire nodded, grateful for the distraction. As they walked toward the entrance, she felt the weight of her facade begin to lift, the remnants of her arrogance fading with each step. The bustling streets of Manhattan awaited them, alive with the spirit of the season, yet Claire felt a deeper shift stirring within her. This Christmas Eve had begun as a quest for superficial validation, but now it held the promise of something far more profound, an opportunity for reflection, growth, and perhaps redemption. The dealership hummed with activity as Claire's purchase was finalized. She stood at the counter, her new luxury car laid out before her like a trophy, a symbol of her status, yet a gnawing discomfort began to churn in her stomach. Sam Donovan lingered nearby, a silent observer, contemplating the weight of what he had witnessed. The air between them crackled with unspoken words, and he felt an urge to confront her about her dismissive attitude, to challenge her perception of success and worth. As Claire signed the final documents, she caught Sam's eye. There was something in his gaze, a depth that made her momentarily hesitate. But the thrill of her new acquisition drowned out any thought of introspection. "I can't wait to show this off at tonight's event," she exclaimed, her voice dripping with triumph. "Everyone will be so envious. It's going to be the talk of the party." Sam opened his mouth to speak, his heart racing with the weight of the moment. Just then, an eager employee approached, a glint of recognition in his eyes. "Mr. Donovan," he exclaimed, breaking the tension. "I didn't realize you were here. I hope you're pleased with how we handled the sale today." Claire's face dropped, her smile faltering as the reality of the situation began to sink in. "Mr. Donovan," she echoed, confusion knitting her brow. The employee nodded enthusiastically, oblivious to the sudden shift in atmosphere. "Yes, the founder of Donovan Motors. We're so grateful for your continued support, sir." Stunned, Claire's mind raced to piece together the implications of this revelation. The man she had belittled, the one she had treated like an inconsequential figure, was a titan in the industry. She felt the heat rise in her cheeks, the embarrassment washing over her like a cold wave. Sam, sensing the shift, decided it was time to take a stand. "Claire," he began, his voice calm yet firm. "This moment is crucial for both of us. You've achieved a lot, but it seems you've lost sight of what truly matters." "What do you mean?" Claire replied defensively, trying to mask her shame. "I've worked hard for this lifestyle. I deserve to enjoy it." "Yes, you've worked hard," he acknowledged. "But wealth and status don't define your character. True success is measured by the kind of person you are, your kindness, your humility, and your respect for others. What you've shown today doesn't reflect that." Claire's heart raced as she processed his words. She opened her mouth to argue, but the weight of his gaze silenced her. Sam continued, his voice steady. "I've seen many people lose themselves in the pursuit of wealth, Claire. They forget that every person they encounter has their own struggles, their own stories. It's important to recognize that we're all human, deserving of respect, regardless of our place in society." "Why should I care about them?" Claire protested, her voice trembling. "They don't understand my life, My struggles. Precisely. Sam replied, his intensity sharpening. But that's where you're wrong. Everyone has a struggle. Your wealth insulates you but doesn't protect you from the emotional battles we all face. You might not realize it yet, but your attitude is a barrier, one that keeps you from forming genuine connections with those around you. Claire stood speechless, grappling with the reality of her actions. The warmth of the dealership, filled with the busy sounds of holiday cheer, felt like a stark contrast to the cold realization settling in her heart. She had spent so long building a facade of perfection, and yet here stood Sam, a man who embodied the very qualities she had overlooked. "Mr. Donovan," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. Please, just Sam," he interjected gently. "You don't have to apologize to me. You need to reflect upon this moment and understand what it could mean for your future." With that, the dealership fell silent around them. Claire's mind raced, battling her ingrained beliefs about wealth and status, the very foundations of her identity. Sam's words echoed in her mind as she stared at the newly acquired car, a hollow symbol now, devoid of the pride it had once inspired. In that moment, Claire understood that change would not come from external validation, but from within. The journey ahead would not be easy, but perhaps it was time to redefine what success truly meant to her. As Claire stood in the dealership, her mind raced with the implications of Sam's revelation. The weight of her previous behavior bore down on her like a heavy cloak, and she struggled to find the right words to express her regret. "I'm so sorry," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't realize who you were, and I've been so consumed with my own life that I failed to see anyone else." Sam smiled gently, his expression warm but firm. "Claire, it's not about who I am. It's about who you can choose to be. Change must come from within, and it's a journey you have to undertake for yourself." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "My late wife, Emily, always believed in the power of kindness. She taught me that true success isn't measured by wealth, but by the impact we have on others." Claire looked down, her heart heavy with guilt. "What did she do?" she asked, genuinely curious about the woman who had left such an impression on Sam. "She dedicated her life to helping those less fortunate," he replied, his eyes lighting up at the memory. "We would volunteer together at shelters, helping to feed the homeless and providing support to families in need. She believed that everyone deserves to feel valued, no matter their circumstances." Claire's mind whirled. The contrast between Emily's life and her own felt stark and jarring. "I've never really thought about giving back," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've always been so focused on maintaining my status, my image. I never stopped to wonder if any of it really mattered." As they spoke, the atmosphere in the dealership shifted. Employees, once busy with their tasks, began to gather nearby, listening intently to the conversation. Their expressions varied from curiosity to admiration for Sam, while Claire felt the heat of their gaze, a mixture of judgment and pity. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, and her heart sank as she read the latest news alert. "Oh no," she breathed, her face paling. "There's been a scandal. They're exposing a fraud case involving my mother and several others from our social circle." Sam's brow furrowed with concern. "What does that mean for you?" Claire's hands trembled, and she felt a sickening knot in her stomach. "It means everything I've built is at risk. My reputation, my connections. All of it is precarious. They'll associate me with this mess just because of my last name." "Sometimes a fall from grace can be the wake-up call we need," Sam offered, his voice steady. "This could be your chance to redefine yourself, Claire. You have the influence to do something meaningful." Claire pondered his words, a spark of determination igniting within her. "You're right. I can't just stand by and watch as my life crumbles around me. Maybe this is the nudge I needed to step away from the superficiality of it all." "Exactly," Sam encouraged, his eyes shining with pride. You could take a stand, use your resources to support charitable causes, and help others who are struggling. That's where true fulfillment lies. As Claire contemplated her next steps, she felt a surge of passion, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. I want to help. I want to do better, she declared, her voice gaining strength. Starting tomorrow, I'll reach out to local charities and organizations. I can use my influence to raise awareness and funds for those in need. Sam smiled at her resolve. That's a beautiful decision, Claire. Your journey won't be easy, but with each step you take, you'll find purpose beyond wealth. With newfound conviction, Claire's heart swelled with the possibilities ahead. She had a long road to travel, but for the first time, she felt hopeful. As they exited the dealership, the lights of Manhattan twinkled around them, each one a reminder of the connections yet to be made, the lives yet to be touched. While Claire embraced a path of transformation, Sam looked on with satisfaction, knowing he had played a part in her awakening. The city hummed with life, and in that moment, both Claire and Sam understood the profound impact of humility, kindness, and the potential for genuine human connection. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share this video with your friends and family, and help us spread these amazing stories.